Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to be talking about the new CZN update alongside the teasers and updates, I guess, regarding Yuki and some of the new characters that they've revealed. However, in terms of what to expect from the newest update very quickly, it is extremely jam-packed and focused around, of course, the roguelike of CZN. And in addition to this, they've also showcased a lot of the details or abilities for Yuki, who again is going to be the upcoming next character. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. So as you can kind of see through some of the abilities that you're seeing from Yuki on screen right now, though these are not necessarily the epiphany or completely filled out or every variation of the cards that you can see here, something that you should note or kind of read between the lines of regarding these cards is that all of them have to do with inspiration and all of them have to do with AoE. Now, outside of arguably one of the coolest looking I guess designs or skill animations in this one, which I think is honestly pretty cool, I think what's also pretty noteworthy, I guess, about the change or about the addition of Yuki is that they have notably decided to actually improve the AoE or actually add more AoE to the actual game. Now, the reason that I think this is impactful or worth mentioning is because as of right now, there aren't super or there isn't a huge amount of AoE in the game as is. That isn't to say this is necessarily a problem though, as again, what it feels like in most cases is that you'll have a super decked out or broken kit anyway, with characters like Meilin, Kairon, or even some of the other characters doing enough damage that it feels like the AoE isn't a problem at all, or you have characters like Hugo that can basically just one-shot anything anyways. Now, beyond this, I do still think that the concept or the way that they've decided to scale or I guess balance this deck through having to draw your cards and gaining damage through this is also pretty cool. Though admittedly, this may feel kind of similar to a lot of some of the other library or card draw I guess experiences that you've probably had with some of the other DPSs, including characters like Haru. That isn't to say that this experience is bad though, and as you're seeing through some of the characters that they're even pairing with Yuki, this is a card draw game, of course, where you go searching through your library, you find the best DPS card, and then you one shot or deal with or deal damage with the cards that you have in your hand. Now, I do also want to point out that in terms of costs, she does also have a relatively low card AP need or I guess requirements, but that isn't to say that I think she is, you know, completely I guess AP-less in terms of requirements, as some of her abilities do look like they'll still be in the 1 to 2 AP range, but as we'll see, I guess, a bit later in terms of her epiphany and some of the cards that we've seen, a lot of them end up being in the 1 to 0 costs, and I'm curious if some of the epiphanies that they haven't necessarily shown the entire list of will end up reducing or setting these costs to 0, as from what we've seen as well, there are some that include retain effects, which, as you guys know, will often come with -1 costs or will reduce some of these costs of cards to 0 anyway. Now, beyond just Yuki, they did also announce a few updates coming to Chaos Zero Nightmare, and this is improvements first and foremost to the beginner path growth type thing, which honestly, even at a base, despite this not being quote-unquote new content, is always nice. I do and have always felt that despite the fact that these beginner paths may just seem like a given, it is always nice to have these, as especially when it comes to the beginning of a game's release, being able to build a character that you want is extremely important, and people seem to forget this, and I've seen this a lot where you may want to build 1 team, 2 teams, 3 teams, but without something like a beginner's path or an adventurer's path, this doesn't really get done. And furthermore, when it comes to some other changes, they're also improving the save data, and honestly, the save data itself is a really cool concept, but there is, or it feels like there is, a lack of clarity regarding when it feels like sometimes you'll save some of your skills or save some of your cards, or when you'll be, you know, or when you'll dustbin or throw out some of the more impactful or important cards here. With this, you can obviously identify, or at least from their words, they'll allow you to identify save data easier. They'll also make it I guess in general, more streamlined, or maybe a bit more visual clarity wise, easier to understand. I'm not sure if this will actually mean that they, include a UI that directly speaks to what cards will be disabled or what cards will be thrown out. The reason behind why you end up retaining basic cards after you will complete a run sometimes. Things like this, I hope are, I guess, included in some sort of UI update. But I also think that in terms of other updates, the cost of codex merging will be reduced. This doesn't seem to be this is fine. Honestly, I think that there are other costs that are more pressing, including promoting a character from level 50 to 60, which I think is ridiculous. This is something that I hope they'll address later on in this little update here, but I'm not entirely sure if they do, unless if I'm missing some read between the lines type deal. But when it comes to promoting a character right now, it costs 500,000 units per character, which again, it would be fine if we're kind of rolling in codexes, or rather rolling in units, but a single 60 run, at least from what I've been getting at level 60, is roughly something like 90 to like 100,000 units. And that means it would take 300 energy essentially to upgrade a character to 60, not including any of the character EXP that you have to follow with this, which I think is really unfortunate. But beyond this, they said that they're reducing some costs. Maybe this will end up being something that they do in the future too. The UI system being a bit more intuitive also sounds fine, though I don't necessarily know if a lot of people are even at a point where they can start farming for these memory fragments, or they're able to run like a full gold loadout, just because of how much, again, we're spending on trying to upgrade the skills and the promotion material for these agents. Now, beyond this, they did also announce that they're going to reduce the target level for Affinity. I don't actually think that the Affinity level itself is such a problem. It's more so, at least in my experience, the fact that they put it in the guide missions, and some of the highest amounts of EXP that you get in the game are in the guide missions. I do still think, though, that the new backgrounds and the fact that there are stats in Affinity obviously make the gifting system in Affinity super important. I also hope that they flesh out the messenger system way more than they've already done, because I think that some other titles in the gacha space have definitely done the messaging or the the character relationship quite well in this game, and based on the fact that you obviously take these characters out on dates, it does feel like they're leaning a bit into it, or at least they had at the 1.0 launch. So I'm hopeful for what they end up revealing, or what they end up showcasing with the Affinity system in the future. Beyond this, they've also introduced, or rather given us, a 300 crystals reward for this dev note. But before we go any further, I do still want to talk about some of the updates that they've showcased through basically the live stream and what you probably missed. Outside of Yuki, who a lot of people, of course, were very excited for, and a lot of us were curious about who was going to get revealed, they did also showcase Chizuru, who I'm a little afraid to show on screen, honestly, because I've seen people get tagged as not safe for work when her design is on screen. But just know that Chizuru is in here, and I'm sorry, I just don't want to get demonetized on my channel. They did also show another character, a third character in this. As you can see, this little white detail here, or there's another character here, which again, I apologize, I wish I could show you, but I'm not sure what will get me demonetized. Yuki herself is already a bit of a risk for me. I hope this video doesn't get demonetized either. But then furthermore, again, they've shown off a few of the epiphanies for Yuki in the actual video. This includes, again, as you're seeing, some additional cost reductions, the ability to retain a card. If a card is drawn through inspiration, it reduces the cost, and other upgrades to some of the base cards that we're seeing already. Now, beyond this, they also showcased Yuki's partner, West Mascot. It looks like it was supposed to be West Mascot, but in any case, this card is pretty designed, or pretty in tune specifically for Yuki herself. Now, despite the card being already designated for strike cards, or for strikers rather, the card reads that attack cards of the designated combat of the assigned combatant drawn by their ability have their damage increased by 50% for one turn, and damage amount of cards with the damage amount of cards with the assigned combatant's inspiration increases by 20%, with a pretty good ego skill, which moves one card from hand to the draw pile. Now, overall, part of the reason why I think this is already nice is because we're already kind of seeing how they're laying the lines, or they're kind of drawing out lines for what characters or what cards will be usable or impactful for a specific character. And I wouldn't say this is necessarily a bad thing, but the fact that they're deciding to make cards more specific to characters and otherwise still having good, 4 or 5 star, or rather 4-star cards without it feeling super FOMO, I think is nice. This card, I think, is also leaning in towards that sort of thinking, where it is a good card, of course, for Yuki, and it is designed specifically for her, and it's not going to be something where, like, oh, even if you skip Yuki, if you don't have West Mekhat, it's something that you'll feel game breaking or game bricking over, which is fine, because obviously if you're going to play Yuki, you want a nice partner for her, and this is obviously one that you can use. But otherwise, I think, having a card that is obviously designated or designed for a character without without punishing the rest of the cast is always nice. Though in terms of how insane or how impactful this will be, we'll have to actually see, as again, this ego skill, though I'm sure will synergize perfectly with someone like Yuki's kit. I'm not entirely sure if moving one card from hand to draw pile is necessarily at the same level as some of the other partner skills that partner ability or ego skills that we've seen. But as always, this is a rather low cost anyways at 3, so we'll see in the future. But I think the additional effect to me stands out a bit more than the ego skill, though again, I'm sure that once you start drawing and once we see more cards, this will probably end up biting me in the butt. In any case, though, they did announce that this is going to be showcased or be revealed, or I guess added to the game on November 12th, which is cool. And supposedly, from what I understand, this will enter the permanent rescue pool on December 3rd, which is also cool. But this basically means that for anyone that doesn't feel the need or feels a bit pressured or doesn't have enough crystals or premium currency right now, you can always get these characters in the future. And if you are obviously a fan of any of the other characters that they've teased, you can obviously wait and see. Though I think that in terms of being an AoE character, I don't think that outside of maybe someone like cannaaaa, there are that many characters who are both low cost and AoE, which is quite noteworthy, especially as I personally have been a fan of using AoE cards or AoE characters, even like Lucas, to just farm through and get through all my energy every day. Now, they've also introduced a new set of activities, or I guess new content added to the game too. This is in the form of new Galactic Disaster, or rather a new piece of content known as Galactic Disaster. And this, if I'm not mistaken, is not just a new chaos activity, but it also adds a nebula distortion and a great rift. The exact details of these things I'm not entirely sure about, as they announced a few things. The new chaos that they announced, though, is Laboratory Zero, which looks pretty cool, though again, in most cases these places are all desolate and messed up looking anyways, and this is more of the same. Now, in terms of the the design and visuals, they all look fine. They've also revealed a few new cards alongside this, and the cards do look rather interesting, including a new list of forbidden cards, which is, honestly, to say gruesome looking is kind of underselling it, but if it's the design and some of the card impacts, I think are cool, including this Portrait of Fury, and you draw one for each character, or rather for each monster hit, which I think is an interesting effect. They also have more neutral cards here, including things like a Retained Shield that's a 0 cost, which is honestly pretty cool. What I really wanted to see, though, from these cards, though, is more stress relief, as it feels like the stress system kind of weighs heavy on a lot of, especially I guess like middle and up and coming to late game cards, or late game, I guess, builds. It feels like stress in some of these or added or reduction of stress is something that a lot of people feel like they are struggling with when it comes to some of the chaos worlds. But obviously, one of the things that I think is fair to point out is that stress added to cards doesn't really do anything when you're trying to add this or trying to use this in some of the end game content, and is rather just something that you use in the chaos runs itself, which is a fair criticism, and why I'm sure that they haven't, I guess, like leaned as heavy into when it comes to these card effects. Now, in terms of the activity as a whole, they did announce that this seasonal chaos or this activity or this new chaos world is going to be a seasonal type activity. This doesn't mean, though, as far as I understand, that it is going to like go away or that your save data will disappear, in case you're curious. But they do obviously point out here that it will be added to the chaos pool. This, of course, is in addition to some of the other event or rather monster cards, which I think is pretty cool. An exhaust with, an exhaust that also not just acts as a draw 1, but also allows you to draw 4 extra if this is the last card that you play, I think is pretty cool. As some people are overloaded with AP and can, obviously use ego skills at the end of turn. But in addition to this, Chilling Godfather, I think also looks pretty cool. It allows you to activate the bottom of the card pile card, which I think is also pretty interesting. But beyond this, what I think is even cooler about this all actually is that they've added effectively what I understand from the Hoyoverse type model is they've added the Memory of Chaos, which is something that, as an end game system, it's just, okay, let's beat up like a 10 series of enemies. It's limited and you have to go through the content, and that's cool. But now they've decided to add a new endgame mode, as far as I understand. But now, instead of dealing with multi-waves, kind of like a Shiyu defense, they've just added the Deadly Assault. Is the way that, as a Zenless Zone Zero creator, that's the way that I read this. This is effectively just you going through and beating up a single enemy. You can use it, or you can fight this enemy using your season data. And this boss, the crab himself, looks like he'll be pretty easy. But in terms of rewards, the rewards are obviously going to allow you to purchase things from a store. And obviously, in terms of the health pool, it's been increased, which I think is also cool. But this does feel nice because I think there are, a lot of players who did actually want to try out or be rewarded for their single target builds, including with characters like Haru or Tressa, things of this nature. And this obviously is just a new activity that I think they can actually do that in. Overall, though, guys, the new content that they've shown is interesting, and you could see more details about it if you go through the live stream themselves. But the rewards, the units, all these things I think are quite nice. You will have to obviously run through, you'll have to run through the chaos content yourself and obviously get a strong enough season data so that you can actually encounter the newest fight. But between like the rewards that they've shown, including polls and some of the more weekly gated content, I think this is all nice. Overall, though, I would say that despite this and some of the new login events and overall activities that they're giving to us, I'm hopeful that they'll maybe address some of the more resource specific grievances with the game at some point in the future. Otherwise, though, I think it's fine for some of the initial details that they're holding right now to, be revealed on November 12th, which is what I think will be the next date when it comes to a live stream or an update video. I think for now, the updates and the changes that they've shown through the version, through the new content, through the changes or improvements to the game are already fine. I'm just a bit, I'm waiting and hoping that the new or upcoming changes actually address our ability to build more than just one character basically every week with how many resources that we're getting. And otherwise, I'm sure if you're a whale, this doesn't mean anything to you anyways, but I know a lot of free-to-play players are probably struggling with this. Overall, though, again, probably for a first 1.0 update type thing, definitely an 8.5 or 9 out of 10 version update and showcase. There are a ton of characters, though, that I know people are waiting or being excited for. So I hope that they also include or document or maybe give us a timeline for when some of these future characters are being announced too. And honestly, even with this video, when they announced, hey guys, we're going to go live or we're going to have like an update for this, they didn't include a time as far as I understand for when this was supposed to come out, which is why I'm late with this. So I apologize, guys, but excited and very happy with what Chaos Zero Nightmare has shown already. That's gonna be it though for today's video. Thanks again for watching though, guys. Hope you guys learned or enjoyed something from today's video, and I'll see you all in the next one. Stay safe, stay healthy. Good night.